Okay, so I chose the book To Dare Mighty Things, The Life of Theodore Roosevelt. I would say this book is probably appropriate for 4th to 5th graders, even though it's a picture book. Because of some of the terminology that's used in it, it's kind of older kid, still understandable though. To start, before I read it, I would ask the kids kind of if they know who Teddy Roosevelt is, if they know anything about him, what facts they know. I would give them a couple minutes to come up with that. I wouldn't expect too much. So after they tell me anything they know, I would then proceed to tell them facts that I know, kind of maybe what number president he was, and any other fun facts about him. So after my whole speech about him, I would then start to read the book. So I love the front cover. Like, I don't know, it's got really great colors. It is not what we have that will make us a great nation. It is the way in which we use it. TD, as he was called, coughed, sneezed, wheezed, had raging fevers, and hardly ate. His asthma was so bad that he had to sleep sitting up in bed or in a big chair. Until he got glasses, he could only see things very close up. But that didn't stop him from studying photographs for hours of hippopotami with canoes on their backs and zebras racing across the African plains. He gobbled up books about the soldiers at Valley Forge and frontiersmen Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone. I felt a great admiration for men who were fearless. I had a great desire to be like them. TD stuffed hedgehogs into drawers. Sometimes they escaped. Guests were warned to check their water pitchers for snakes before pouring. He has to be watched all the time, his mother told his father. He illustrated and wrote books about ants, spiders, ladybugs, fireflies, hawks, minnows, and crayfish. His fingers were always stained with ink. He collected animal and bird specimens and created a museum in his room. He smelled. The whole house smelled. All growing boys tend to be grubby, but the ornithological boy is the grubbiest of all. His father told him, "You have the mind, but not the body. You must make your body." Never one to not meet a challenge, TD took hikes, pressed weights, and swung up and down on bars. His skinny chest and muscles grew, but he was still sickly. That didn't stop him from climbing mountains and volcanoes, hunting jackals on horseback, and camping in sub-freezing weather. He noted every experience in his diary. He wanted to go to college, but worried that he didn't have the energy. A tutor prepared him at home. He crammed 3 years of studying into 2. "It is not splendid. I passed in all the 8 subjects I tried." He couldn't bring his museum to Harvard, so he created a new one in his room there. His giant tortoise escaped its pen and terrified his landlady. He studied long hours, but he still found time to box, wrestle, hunt, ice skate, teach Sunday school, and dance away the nights at fancy balls. Instead of resting in the summer, he researched and wrote a book about 97 different birds. Looking back over my 18 years, I have never spent an unhappy day unless by my own fault. At 20, he fell in love with Alice Hathaway Lee, who gave him the nickname Teddy. But before marrying, he went west to hunt. His doctor had told him not to go. He had to live in a quiet life or he would die soon. "If I've got to live that sort of life, I don't care how short it is." He went away for 3 weeks. "By Godfrey, this is fun." He came home to Alice and had a grand wedding. "My happiness is so great it makes me almost afraid." At 23, he was elected as the youngest member of the New York State Assembly. He wrote 4 bills in 1 week, but he was new to politics and no one paid attention to him. So he marched around the assembly yelling, sometimes for 40 minutes. Many lawmakers did not like his ideas, but they couldn't silence him. I would rather go out of politics feeling that I had done right than stay knowing I have acted as I ought not to. His bills didn't pass, but he became a leader in the Republican Party. I rose like a rocket. On February 12, 1884, Alice gave birth to their daughter. Teddy's happiness turned to sorrow 2 days later when both his wife and his mother unexpectedly died. The light has gone out in my life. He went back to work in a frenzy. Indeed, I think I should go mad if I were not employed. But still, nothing stilled his sadness. He left for the Dakota Territory to be far off from all mankind, leaving baby Alice Lee in the care of his sister, Amy. He stayed almost 3 years, hunting, raising cattle, reading poetry, and writing books. He returned east, muscular and healthy, but still very sad. Then love came into his life again with Edith Caro. You have no idea how sweet Edith is, he wrote his sister. But news of vicious blizzards pulled Teddy back to the Dakotas. He saw how wildlife was disappearing from too much hunting and building. The land was a barren waste. Not a green thing could be seen. He could not let this happen. Teddy formed a group that lobbied Congress to pass laws to protect California's sequoias and Alaska's seals, salmon, and seabirds. And while he was doing all this, he was also writing more books. At 31, he was appointed Civil Service Commissioner. He investigated illegalities in Indiana, Wisconsin, and Maryland. We stirred things up well. His report criticized people in power, including members of his own party and a friend of the president. But no one could silence Teddy when he believed he was right. An office holder must do his duty for the whole people, not for any party or any faction. Many Republican lawmakers in the Capitol sighed with relief when Teddy left to become New York City's police commissioner. Teddy set out to reform New York City's police department. He got rid of the chief of police. He started an officer training program. He patrolled the city at night and sent warning notes to police not on duty. Many police then took bribes to keep bars open on Sundays, though it was against the law. Teddy closed the bars on Sundays. The howl that rose was deafening. Republican lawmakers in New York City sighed with relief when Teddy left for Washington in 1897 to be Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Teddy was convinced trouble was ahead with Spain, which controlled Cuba. He insisted the United States build more battleships, cruisers, and torpedo boats. On February 15, 1898, when an American ship was blown up in Cuba's harbor, Teddy declared it was sunk by an act of dirty treachery by the Spaniards. It turned out he was wrong, but the U.S. declared war on Spain anyway. Teddy resigned from the Navy and joined the Army. In Cuba, he found himself in charge of the 1st Volunteer Cavalry Regiment, nicknamed the Rough Riders. Charge! Roosevelt ordered. On July 1st, 1898, the Rough Riders surged up the grassy slopes of San Juan Hill in Cuba in blistering heat. Mosquitoes swarmed about them. Cannon fire and thousands of bullets rained down on them. They could not see their enemy, but still they fired anyway. By nightfall, they had captured the hill. The charge itself was great fun. Oh, but we had a bully fight. Teddy returned home a national hero. Republican politicians all over the country, seeing how famous he was, urged him to run for governor of New York. He did, and won. Republicans asked him to run as William McKinley's vice president. He thought the job would be too boring. I could not do anything as vice president, and yet I would be seeing continually things I would like to do. He ran anyway. McKinley won. 9 months later, McKinley was assassinated, and Roosevelt became president. Teddy, Edith, and their 6 children moved with their guinea pigs, ponies, badgers, parrots, dogs, and snakes into the White House. His children raced about their new home on stilts, roller skates, and bicycles. His daughter Alice liked sliding down the banister in an evening gown to greet visitors. Children make all other forms of success lose their importance by comparison. Early morning found the president galloping about the Capitol on horseback, or hanging from a cable to strengthen his wrists, or staring at birds and trees. Then came a whirl of meetings with advisors, lawmakers, and reporters. Evenings often ended with pillow fights, wrestling matches, and throwing water balloons off the roof. Edith said that Teddy was her 7th child. Business in America was booming, but small companies could not compete with big companies called trusts. Roosevelt thought this unfair. He sued a railroad trust. He won and broke up the railroad trust. Then he sued 44 other trusts. He created a new bureau with rules for businesses. Our aim is to control business, not strangle it. Roosevelt was called a trust buster. He didn't like that term, but it stuck. There was still work to be done to save America's natural resources. Too many forests were gone, chopped down for timber and money. Sheep growers had overgrazed their land. Farmers had overplanted their fields. Irrigation was desperately needed. National monuments were crumbling, and he had to be saved too. We are not building this country for a day. It is to last through the ages. As president, Roosevelt created 18 national monuments, 50 national forests, 51 bird reservations, 4 national game preserves, 5 national parks, and 24 reclamation projects saving 230 million acres. There can be no greater issue than that of conservation in this country. He told other nations to stay out of Latin America, but when he thought it was necessary, he stepped into conflicts in Haiti, Venezuela, and the Dominican Republic. Speak softly and carry a big stick, and you will go far. In 1906, he won the Nobel Peace Prize for settling the war between Russia and Japan. Roosevelt wanted to buy land in Panama to build a canal connecting the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Panama's government refused. When a local revolt started in 1903, Roosevelt sent troops to help the rebels. The rebels won. The new government let him build the canal. Many American lawmakers said Roosevelt's actions were unconstitutional. Roosevelt, always a man of action, disagreed and refused to wait until Congress decided what should be done. It took the canal zone and let Congress debate. While the debate goes on, the canal does also. Roosevelt decided not to run for a 3rd term, but that didn't mean he was going to stay home and rest. He went to Africa to hunt and collect specimens. Returning home, he was so unhappy about what the Republicans were saying that he formed a new political party, the Progressive Bull Moose Party. In 1912, he ran for president again. He lost. It is hard to fail, but it is worse never to have tried to succeed. Teddy Roosevelt lived until he was 61. No man has had a happier life than I have led, a happier life in every way. So, after reading the book to the kids, I think I would ask them what they have learned, new things they've learned, if what information they already knew, and if they would tell their friends and recommend this book to their friends.